So today we're going to be talking about measuring angles. Alright, so yesterday we talked a little bit about measuring segments, and we talked about two different postulates for measuring those segments. Today we're going to be talking about how to measure angles, and we're going to have two more postulates about how to measure angles. So just some quick vocab that should be a review for you. An angle it consists of two different rays with the same endpoint. Okay? And those sides of those angles are the rays, and the vertex is the endpoint. So um, here is a very quick visual to look at it. So we have the angle, which in this case the angle can be named BAC, CAB, or angle A, as it says down here, and this is how you would write those angles. They are made up of two different sides, which could be ray AC and ray AB, and the vertex is at point A, so it's when those two rays meet. Okay, this should all be review for you, but just to go through it. Alright, so if I were to measure or name three different angles in this diagram, I could say I have angle WXY, alright, I have angle YXZ, alright, I could say I have angle WXZ, alright, so those are just three of them. I could also name each of these angles different things. Alright, I could do angle YXW and things like that. Now, the one thing that is very, very important about this particular example, if you look here, there are three different angles, or two angles coming together as one, with a single vertex. So you cannot label this angle X, because I don't know which angle you're talking about. So you cannot do that, okay, for this particular example. All right, so we have four different types of angles. These should all be a review for you, but we're just going to quickly go over them. So we have an acute angle, which is an angle that measures between 0 and 90 degrees. We have a right angle, which measures at exactly 90 degrees. An obtuse angle, which is between 90 and 180 degrees. That's the big ones. And then we have a straight angle, which is exactly 180 degrees, or it's also a line. Okay? All right. So our first postulate of the evening is the protractor postulate. And the protractor postulate states that if you consider line OB and a point A on one side of OB, the rays of the form OA can be matched 1 to 1 with the real numbers from 0 to 180. So that's the protractor, okay? So the measure of angle AOB is equal to the absolute value of the difference between the real numbers for angle ray OA and ray OB. All right, now to put this in English because it is very confusing. What they mean is if you look at the points on here where they are, so in this case we have 40 and then we have 180 here, or we could look at it as 0 and 140. The difference between those, the difference between 140 and 0 is 140, which is also the measure of angle AOB. Okay. Same with if you were to look at the outside numbers. If you were to take 180 and subtract it from 40, you would also get 140 degrees, which is the measurement of angle AOB. All right, so it is just teaching you a more complicated way of reading a protractor. Okay. All right. So just to practice with this, we're just gonna touch on a couple of these examples. If you want more practice, you can do them all. All right. So if we were to look at angle KHJ, okay, and if I look at my protractor, I can automatically see that it is 55 degrees. All right, it is 55 degrees. But using that postulate or axiom, um, you could take 55 and subtract it from 0, okay? This is very useful when you are measuring an angle that is in the middle. I know it does not ask for this, but if I were to ask you for the measurement of angle LHK, so angle LHK, um, as you can see, it does not, the sides of this angle do not measure up with the bottom of the protractor. So we could actually use that postulate to take where L goes over, which is 90, and subtract it from 55, and so 90 minus 55 would be 35. All right, so 90 minus 55 would be 35. So that would be the measurement of angle LHK. All right. Our next postulate we're going to talk about is the angle addition postulate. So the angle addition postulate says if P is the interior of angle RST, so if you look, you have angle RST, and in the middle is um, that P, okay? Then the measure of RST is equal to the sum of measures, um, equal sum of the measures of angle RSP and PST. So basically all they're saying is that if you add these two angles up, it equals this big angle. Okay? All right. So to describe that, I can actually set up an equation to demonstrate this. So they're telling us that angle LKN, so the big angle here, is 145 degrees. And they want to know the measurements of both LKM and MKN. So we can actually set up an equation that looks just like an algebra equation. So we have 2x plus 10 plus 4x minus 3. And because of the angle addition postulate, I can say that those two angles actually equal to 145. All right, and I can go through and solve this. So I would have 6x plus 7, all right, because I'm taking 10 minus 3 equals 145. All right, and if I subtract 7 to both sides, I will then get 6x equals um, 138. And then if I were to divide 138 by 6, I would get 23. So now you have to be careful with these. All this is telling me is that x equals 23. X is not the measurement of the angle, all right? That's where you have to check back on what you're actually trying to look for. So I can take that 23 and I can plug it in for x um, in both of these angles, and then find the actual length measurement of those angles. So why don't you do that right now? Pause me, figure it out, Plug 23 in for 2x plus 10 and find the measurement of angle LKM, and do the same thing with MKN with plugging into 4x minus 3. Okay? All right, I'm just going to put a couple more. This is another example of how to use that angle addition postulate. So if you want to, you can give it a try in your notes. Okay. Here's another example. All right. In the example I just showed you earlier, it was a straight angle. So we know that a straight angle by definition is 180 degrees. And in this particular one, we have a right angle. So we can say um, that that these two angles together will equal to 90 degrees. Okay.